Hello there, this is Charlene. You're listening to the Test Your Open Mic podcast, a podcast created by testers for testers. In the previous episode of this mini-series, Work Smarter, Not Harder, Markus and I talked about how to choose the most promising test, an amazing checklist to help you pick the right test, especially if you are new to the platform.
It's really important to pick the right one. And why is that? Just for our motivation for today's topic. If you pick the wrong test, you will work on a test that is not promising. You will get frustrated, you will not earn a lot, maybe nothing, and you will have wasted time. And you could have prevented all that by spending a couple of minutes to just pick the right test. So this time investment is definitely worth it because then you will work on the right test and you'll be successful. So it all starts with picking the right test before we can optimize anything else in your workflow, in your working style. You have to pick the first test first of all. How I would go about it is, when you look at your dashboard, click through every available test. Look at when it starts, when it ends, if it has already started. Again, maybe the competition is already so high, maybe a lot of bugs have already been submitted. You may want to pick a test that is about to start. Okay, among all those that are about to start, again, check the instructions, check the payout, check the hard facts of this test, check the complexity of the test. Is it understandable for you? Do you prefer such a type of test? If not, check the other tests as well. And then pick the most promising one for you. And then really focus on this test that you identified. Jumping back and forth because you didn't find a bug within 3, 4, 5 minutes, I wouldn't do that personally. I would focus on one test, the most promising one that I identified, and then when I'm done, when I feel, okay, I have now found a few bugs, then I go to the next one.
Hello Markus, welcome back.
Hey Charlie, glad to be back.
Thank you for joining me again. And what would be the subject about, Markus, for this episode?
Yeah, so now that we covered the, I think, most crucial decision to make to pick the right test, now I think it's time to talk a little bit about the test itself that you picked and what you do within this test to be the most successful. So it will be about reading and comprehending the test cycle instructions.
Oh, that's very nice. That's very important, because once you have done all, like, what I call checklist, but it's actually how to understand tests on our platform. Once you pick the right one, so the first thing you have to do, like inevitable, even for team leaders, is read the instructions. So please.
Yeah, I fully agree with you here, Charlie. So what I want to point out is this is not just about reading. It's about comprehension of what you're reading. You know, we usually just talk about testers, please read the instructions and all the information we provide to you, but it's really more than that, right? Comprehension here means attentively reading, trying to understand it and interpreting it, and also integrating what you read with what you already know. I think this is quite important. So every tester has their background, has gone through the onboarding, has different experiences from previous tests, knows the rules as always. And comprehension here means combining what you know from the given rules with what you're reading in the test instructions.
Crucial indeed.
Yeah, and you know, it sounds obvious to everyone listening to this podcast, right? You need to read the instructions. Maybe you've even heard it plenty of times by TLs or by the community team, but it's really worth the investment. You know, let me give you an example. It probably takes about 5 minutes, maybe a little bit more, to really read through everything. Some tests even don't come with any or little additional information. So let's say it takes 5 minutes to really read into it. And understand everything. That time is very well invested. If you, for example, don't read take these 5 minutes and you just go right into testing mode, and maybe you then test something for 10 minutes, which you shouldn't have tested. So this already shows you that you could save these 10 minutes by investing the 5 minutes of reading. and understand and comprehension. Also, let's say you tested everything by accident. You tested exactly what was supposed to be tested without having read the instructions. But then you find a bug which is actually out of scope. So you take the time to start documenting everything. You invest time. It can easily take 5 to 10 minutes to document a bug report. And then it gets rejected. So these 5 to 10 minutes for the documentation were for nothing. And it also adds frustration, but that's probably just, another effect of it. What I try to tell you is you can really save a lot of time by just investing this small amount of time in the very beginning of a test.
Yes, and testers get they get to know about the instructions very early, even before the beginning of the actual testing time. So it's plenty of time to do so.
Exactly. So usually we invite testers before the test starts. So that time is well spent on reading and understanding, because you cannot test anyway.
Exactly.
What you could, of course, say is, well, I as a tester can go to another test that is already running and spend time on that test testing. That's of course true. But however, remember what we talked about in our first episode is, pick the right test, focus on that test. And if this test that is about to start in 30, 50 or 60 minutes is the right test that you picked, then it's again worth the investment to just read it, and not focus on other tests at the same time.
Absolutely. And about these instructions, what is the structure of the instructions on an overview page of a test?
That's a very valid question. So of course we need to tell our listeners what exactly they should read and how to maybe prioritize it. So as you may know, there are feature descriptions, there are additional requirements, there is a goal of this test, and there is an out of scope section. And I would recommend to read from top to bottom everything that's there. And I also want to give you my golden rule that I always used when I was a tester, and it still applies in my opinion. So you may read different things in the feature descriptions and in the additional requirements, goals, and out of scope section. And then you might read something even further else in the chat by the TL. So how do you make sense of that you read different information different places, and how do you prioritize here? So I would always say the fundament is the features. So you read the features, then on top of this the manually written instructions in goal, out of scope, and additional requirements, because somebody invested some time here, right? It was definitely written manually. So this is probably more actual information than what's written in the feature descriptions, because the feature descriptions are a lot of times standard features, and the test may be duplicated from a previous test. So that's what customers do a lot of times. They just duplicate a previous test, and that means that unless they really thoroughly check all the feature descriptions, they might be a little bit outdated or a little bit inconsistent with what they write in the additional requirements. So again, additional requirements, it's manually written, it's probably more actual. And then you have the TLs writing something in the test chat, and that is probably the most important information, because it overrules and overrides what's in the test instructions. The TL has to probably talk to the CSM and ask for clarification, or the TL with all their experience knows how to interpret these instructions from the customer. So again, at the end of the day, it counts what's written in the TL chat. And if there's any instruction that contradicts maybe what was written in the test instructions, rather go with the TL chat information.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah, it might be a reason for sure to share that. Definitely. That's actually my approach. I learned that just by getting rejections and rereading, asking all this.
Oh yeah, I believe. So one more thing is, if you notice any inconsistency, so if you cannot make sense of the information you read, in all of these three places, my recommendation would be, do not start testing and don't make too many assumptions here what might be correct. So rather ask for guidance. And if it's something that blocks you from even starting to test in this test cycle, then rather skip the test or wait until the TL responds and spend some time on another test cycle. Because it doesn't make sense to start testing if not everything is clear to you, or at least, some part is clear that you can already start testing that part. You might be wasting your time here if you notice inconsistencies, if it's not clear, and you run into rejections maybe because of that.
Absolutely. And for instance, today I got those reports that are coming from no reading the instructions, and the instruction was set up journey before starting testing. And 10 minutes after the start of the test, I got a report that the user cannot access the app, the website, and of course, because it's not using Journey, that was the answer. So please just read, and it's definitely worth it. 5 minutes of reading to comprehend text is much better than 1 hour testing, because it's going to be just wasted time.
And this is a good example you made here for our listeners, I think. One more recommendation from my side would be, one word can make a big difference. So if you think that you read the additional requirements and everything seems clear, but maybe one word isn't, and you just skip it, that might make all the difference. So please look up this word online, because English is, for most of us, not our native language. And therefore, keep learning by looking up words, and then that will ensure you actually understood what you read and you know what is supposed to be done. I have encountered in my previous experiences that, I thought I understood something, and then I invested that 30 seconds or that 60 seconds to look it up, and then it turned out, oh wait, I would have made a big mistake here, and I would have submitted this bug now, for example, which would of course have gotten rejected. So probably one of my last recommendations for today would be, keep this information you read present while you test, right? Again, we already talked about attentively reading and understanding what you read, but you also have to keep it present, and you have to apply it when you look at the customer interface, the customer product. And if you do that, I can guarantee you will notice, oh, okay, this area is out of scope because I read it before, or this area is what I should focus on because it's said in the goal of this test section. So again, keep information present. You will also find this information in an Academy article soon. So Charlie and I will prepare these articles for each episode of this mini-series. So you can read a summary basically in these articles, and we will also link the episodes to these articles. So in case you are more of the reading learning type, that's better for you.
It would be better, definitely. Thank you for sharing such valuable advice again with our audience, our testers, Markus. And I'm sure that after this episode, after 2 episodes now, they'll start putting into practice all that has been shared today and last episode. For sure, they are eager to hear the next strategy.
Looking forward to the next one, and hope to see you all there.
Thank you for sharing your valuable advice once again with our testers, our audience, Markus. I'm sure that after 2 episodes, they start already putting into practice all that has been shared, and I'm sure they are eager to hear the next strategy. Thank you all for listening to the Teseo Open Mic podcast. If you want to know more about us, what we do, how we do it, and build a QA testing career in the IT industry from scratch, hit the subscribe button. And if you want to listen to our private podcast, please join our Discord community directly from your tester account. Take care, stay safe, and stay tuned. Cheers.